So, if someone does a crime, like breaking a window or drop-kicking a puppy, we put some handcuffs on them and we take them off to prison and our communities are safer. All right, any questions? Yes?
Do people stay in prison forever?
No, they don't stay there forever. They stay there for a while and then we let them back out into society.
And then do they do more crimes?
Nope, no more crimes. Once they're in prison, they stop all their crimes. They've learnt their lesson.
So is prison like a school?
No, it's not like a school. There are no teachers.
How
it's
does
not a very...
it stop people from doing more crimes then?
Question, you got some smart kids. All right, let me help you out. We catch the baddies, yeah, and then we send them to prison. They go into prison, and then once they come out of prison, they're all better.
So is it like a hospital?
Yeah, kind of like a hospital, except there's no doctors or nurses.
How does it make them better?
Look, kid, okay? It's simple. You go into the prison, and then the prison, something happens in the prison, okay? I don't know what it is, but I know that it works. You come out of the prison.
Making a mess.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have to make a mess if you would just It's fine. You know what? It's fine. You guys just don't understand because you got small, dumb children brains and you can't comprehend complex systems like this. Be bad, go prison, be good. We all know it as adults. We all agree on it. If you go into prison, you come out and you're all better.
Can I go to prison?
No. No one's going to prison. You don't want to go there, kid.
I want to be Peter.
Enough! Stop! No! No one's going to prison, all right? None of you would survive in prison. Do you know how scary it is in prison? Prison is scarier than the first Paranormal Activity, and that is scary. Okay? The other two after that are not as scary, but imagine the first one. That's how scary prison is. Do you think you'll last in a fight club? Do you? You won't. You don't know MMA. You'd get stabbed instantly because you're open. You walk open. You need to walk closed. If you walk open, you're a target. Next time I see you walking around the school and you're walking open like that, I'm gonna kick you in your stomach just to teach you a lesson. No prison for any of you, okay? All right, who wants to get shot with a taser?
Yeah!
All right, arms straight, elbows locked in. Keep your eyes on the prize. Take a deep breath and take out the target.
Cops, spies, librarians. Lots of people are trying to enforce the government's rules. But which ones can throw you in prison? Let's find out.
The Citizen's Handbook.
The government doesn't trust you to be left to your own devices, so there are people whose job it is to make you follow the rules. And it's not just cops and prisons, there are lots of agencies out there making sure you do as you're told. Think of them like the Avengers, except instead of superpowers, they have notebooks and forms and parking ticket machines. Fisheries New Zealand stops you from catching tiny fish. New Zealand Food Safety stops you from selling poisoned fish. The New Zealand Customs Service stops you from smuggling fish into the country. And it's not all fish stuff. If you're trying to immigrate to New Zealand, Immigration New Zealand will make sure you fill in a giant pile of forms. If you want to do terrorism, the NZSIS and the GCSB are there to stop you. If the welfare system keeps you alive, work and income will stop you getting a boyfriend without telling them. And if you don't fund all of these agencies by paying your taxes, the IRD will hunt you down. Now, not all of law enforcement is cops and prisons, but to be honest, most of it is. So why are cops so important? Well, to understand that, we have to go back to the 1800s. In the 1800s, British settlers started to think their colonising army was becoming unnecessary and too expensive.
The colonial army is becoming unnecessary and too expensive.
Definitely, yeah.
So they replaced them with the Armed Constabulary, which was cheaper, and that turned into the Armed Police Force, and eventually that became one big national organisation called the New Zealand Police Force. Whatever they were called, the cops wanted to enforce settler laws on everyone, but in the early days, they could only really cover the British settlements. As a result, Māori only made up 3% of the prison population. That number spiked a little in the 1860s when Māori soldiers were locked up for fighting against colonisation, and again in the 1880s when Māori pacifists were locked up for, protesting peacefully against colonisation. Colonisation seems to be coming up a lot. For the next few decades, cops swung back and forth between two different styles of policing. When Māori people fought back against colonisation, police became more paramilitary. And when nobody questioned their authority, police became more preventative, gently asking people to please not do too many crimes, if any at all. Since then, the cops have gone a little bit paramilitary whenever they thought people needed a bit more help to quieten down, like during the strikes of 1912 and 1913, the industrial protests in 1951, and the 1981 Springbok tour. Basically, whenever citizens are angry about something being unjust, the police are there to forcefully assert that actually, despite what it looks like, everything's fine. Over time, our prison population has only gotten bigger. New Zealand currently has 18 prisons. Most of them are run by the Department of Corrections, but one of them is run by a private company called Serco that makes money off prisoners. And there are 4 other facilities run by the Ministry for Children. They're called Youth Justice Residences, which sounds way better than child prisons. Not only are there more people in prison now, a higher percentage of those people are Māori. So let's just check back in with our... Oh my God, it's 50%. It's not 3%, it's 50% now, even though Māori are only 15% of the population. What's going on? Well, part of the reason for that is straightforward racism. In 2007, a study by the Department of Corrections said that
there are indications of a degree of overrepresentation related solely to ethnicity rather than any other expected factor at key points in the criminal justice system.
Right, okay. So I think that baffling sentence basically means that your skin colour affects your odds of getting talked to by the cops, getting arrested, getting found guilty, and getting sent to prison. But it isn't just racism. It's also that poor people are more likely to go to prison. And Māori have been disproportionately poor for generations because some people, and I don't want to name names here, but some people stole all of their land and used it to get rich. You see, if you're poor, you're more likely to face prison time for lots of reasons. If you're poor, you can't pay for traffic fines, which can snowball into a prison sentence. If you're poor, you're more likely to be illiterate, which means you're less likely to get a job. If you're poor, you might not get bail because you don't have a residential address, which might see you get sent to prison. And once you're in prison, chances are you'll come back because rehab services are only available to people who are there long term. So if you're just there for a little bit, prison can just become a great big crime school where people teach you how to do crime. Now, in New Zealand, most prisoners aren't allowed to vote, so it's very hard for them to have their say. So it's up to you to tell our politicians what you think. Should prisons focus on punishing people or making them better? What's the best way to do that? Should settlers give back the money they made off Māori land? Should you become a spy? Would you wear a cool tuxedo? Hey, look, these are all important questions, but they're not for me to answer. That's your job. You're the citizen. Good luck.
The citizen's